So I've been banging the table as loudly as possible saying, look, there are no certainties in this world, but this is the highest probability opportunity I've ever seen and the biggest magnitude of any opportunity I've ever seen in my entire career or I've ever heard about. So that's the scale, and that's why I am crazy interested in this. Ethereum to me remains the best bet in the world from a risk-adjusted standpoint. It may not do the most in price of all, but for a major asset, my guess is it gets pretty close to Bitcoin's market cap. So I think it probably in the end, somewhere doubles in relative valuation versus Bitcoin. I don't think the market quite expects that, but maybe that kind of short period of the flippening would be the end of the cycle when, everybody punches the air, all the, the Bitcoin guys get pissed off because, Ethereum's outperformed, and then we get a larger correction.
In his latest interview, macro investor Raoul Pal lays out his entire crypto thesis, including why he thinks everyone has got this cycle wrong, why he thinks Ethereum is by far the surest bet in the space, and finally what prices he expects to see for Bitcoin and Ethereum by end of year. For those of you who are looking to maximize returns and don't mind the extra risk, Raoul also speaks on why he thinks Solana, Terra, Avalanche, and Cardano are the highest return, highest risk selections in the crypto space. Make sure to stick around to the end of the video where I will cover the latest on-chain Bitcoin and Ethereum data to see how it stacks up against Raoul's thesis. Also, only a small percentage of my viewers are actually subscribed. If you enjoy finance content, consider subscribing or liking the video. It's free and you can always change your mind.
I have been following Metcalfe's law as my guide for this. Metcalfe's law is about how do you value a network? And it's about basically the number of people on the network plus the number of connections between those people. And the more connections and the more applications built on top of those people, the more valuable it is. So the biggest network is currently Bitcoin. And Bitcoin has less applications built on it than Ethereum does, but it has more users. So it's immensely valuable. It has the store of value proposition that most people are familiar with. What is interesting is adoption effects seem to repeat themselves. It seems to be a human behavioral thing. So if you look at this next chart, Bitcoin now is basically exactly following Bitcoin 2013 in price structure. It's weird. But this is not a chart I've just pulled up today. I've been following this for a year and a half once I first started discovering Metcalfe's law. And I'm like, bloody hell, this is weird. But it gives you a rough idea. I don't expect it to be perfect, but it gives you a rough idea. And what I'm expecting is a gigantic rally into year end. And we'll talk a bit about an extended cycle in a sec. If you remember, 2013 was a hell of an adoption cycle. It was the initial one, and it had some violent moves. It's kind of suggesting violent moves. Just by using that chart, it gets me somewhere like 300,000 Bitcoin price range. Okay, that's above most people's expectations, but I don't see any reason why the chart's not going to work. And we'll come a bit more about how this cycle plays out in a sec. But the other killer chart is once I start discovering Metcalfe's law, I start realizing that Ethereum's exactly following Bitcoin's last cycle. And it's like, oh my God, this is spooky. I mean, I've got it actually on my Bloomberg in real time, and it almost works. Tick for tick. I've never seen anything like it. And that gives a cycle projection for Ethereum of 20,000. And again, I actually think it's going to overshoot. But I thought, well, if my logic about Metcalfe's law is right, then these layer ones that we'll talk about later should also fit. And bizarrely, here's the chart of Solana against Ethereum in the last cycle. When Ethereum was the darling, the new breakthrough, it's exactly following. And the same is true of Terra. It's exactly following. It's like, wow. So as these different protocols get adoption, they're all behaving in the same way. While Bitcoin is repeating its early cycle of massive adoption. So for me, this is super interesting. And again, I don't expect these to be perfect, but they're contextualizing network adoption, which is, I think, everything in this space for the time being, until we start moving into some of the other things. So how do I think this plays out? Because that's what everybody cares about. I honestly think we're going to have a ridiculous year end. But here's the rub, is we've got different people, actors in the business now. So if you are BlackRock or you are Tudor and you have Bitcoin at end of year, if you are BlackRock, and let's say I'm right and Bitcoin goes up 4x into the end of year or 3x, you are going to rebalance and sell some Bitcoin. If you are Tudor, you come into the end of the year, you want to lock in your gains because you get paid your annual performance fee in January, so you will probably flatten out your P&L. So what happens is we might see selling towards the end of December, which the market is going to go, the cycle's finished. Because everybody's kind of expecting a December end, because it was 2013 and 2017 where the Bitcoin cycle ended in December. However, I think the structure has changed. I think there's a couple of things going on that will elongate the cycle. One is everybody is onboarding. The more the price goes up, the more the institutions onboard. Institutions are weird beasts. They tend to operate quarterly. So you come into January, everybody who's got approval is going to start onboarding and allocating January, February, March. So that sell-off from the rebalancing will be bought by the new institutions entering the space as they increase their allocations. Additionally, hedge funds have a brand new P&L January 1st. And what they like to do is put on risk. And this will be the bet that they'll put on. So my guess is we see more of that, and that drives prices further than we expect. I'm kind of thinking there is a probability, a reasonable probability, call it a 30, 40% chance that Ethereum gets to 40,000 and Bitcoin, whether it gets to 300 or 400, I don't know. And there's even enough chance of more. I think we've got a spot ETF that comes in the middle of that, and probably an Ethereum ETF that comes. Then we've got the other big game in town, which is the fact that Ethereum has no supply. There's about 10 or 11% of all available Ethereum on exchanges. Everything else is locked away in smart contracts, cold storage, DeFi, NFTs, and then staking. Because everybody wants the ETH 2.0 to come, so everybody's staking their ETH for the yield. And that takes it off and locks it away until after that. And then that ETH comes onto the market gradually. So I think the cycle probably goes on till the summer. I think almost certainly till March, but possibly to the summer, which will give us higher prices and a different cycle structure than we've seen before. I could be wrong. I'm not betting the entire ranch on it, but that's how I think it plays out. And if I'm right about the network adoption, then these other layer ones like Solana, Terra, Avalanche, Cardano, and some of the others are going to be super explosive. But in a risk-reward basis, they're riskier. They're not as deep a network as Ethereum is. Ethereum, to me, remains the best bet in the world from a risk-adjusted standpoint. It may not do the most in price of all, but for a major asset, my guess is it gets pretty close to Bitcoin's market cap. So I think it probably, in the end, somewhere doubles in relative valuation versus Bitcoin. I don't think the market quite expects that, but maybe that kind of short period of the flippening would be the end of the cycle when, everybody punches the air, all the, the Bitcoin guys get pissed off because, Ethereum's outperformed, and then we get a larger correction. But anyway, that's how I see it. And that's a lot of work that I've been writing Global Macro Investor, in Real Vision Pro for Macro Insiders, from speaking to people, understanding the structure from people like, the on-chain analysis from, Will Clement and Willy Woo and others, looking at the technical analysts that we've had on Real Vision, Crypto Sniper, all of these people getting a distillation from Plan B stock to flow. And so I'm forming a whole macro view around the space the next kind of 6 to 9 months in the space from all of these kind of conversations that are happening on Real Vision.
So there's Raoul Pal laying out exactly how he thinks the next year is going to play out for crypto and why Ethereum is his #1 play. You guys know I cover the biggest figures in the crypto space, and from my perspective, out of everyone I cover, to his credit up until this point, Raoul has been the most articulate and accurate about what the crypto space is going to do and how it's going to act. Based on his performance in the past and the way on-chain analysis backs up his macro predictions, I am inclined to think his outlook is going to be pretty accurate, but we'll have to wait and see. Let me know what you guys think and if you think there is someone else in the space who has been even more accurate than Raoul. Now, to cover some of the latest on-chain Bitcoin and Ethereum data, first up, out from Lex Moskovsky, we have some more insight into Bitcoin whales and what they are doing with BTC. As you can see, addresses that hold between 100 to 1000 Bitcoin, which represents between $6.5 to $65 million worth of Bitcoin holdings, meaning very high net worth individuals or institutions have been adding to their positions all throughout September and October. The fact we are moving sideways despite all-time high level prices and whale holders are still adding to their stack is incredibly bullish in my opinion. Now, moving to some on-chain Ethereum data. Out from Santiment, we have some data on Ethereum's network growth, and they point out that we have seen a huge uptick of new active addresses on the Ethereum network. As you can see, the Ethereum network added 995,000 new addresses, which represents the highest network growth we have seen since the middle of May this year. If you subscribe to Raoul's way of thinking in that the more users on a network means increased value of the network, then this is extremely positive for the Ethereum price. Anyway guys, hope you enjoyed today's video and that provided you all with some value. I'll see you all in the next video, and as always, have a great day.